What's growing on, gardeners? What if I told you there was a way to grow zucchini so the plants never get attacked by squash vine borers or squash bugs? What if I told you that you could grow them under protection all season long and you didn't need to hand pollinate them because they didn't require pollination? Well, this variety right here makes that claim. This variety of zucchini claims that you can cover your plants all season long so you can keep 100% of the insects off of them. No squash vine borers, no squash bugs, no other kinds of pests, and they don't need to be visited by bees because they will set lots of fruit without any pollination at all. Sound too good to be true? I tested this variety. Let's see what the results are.
If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and check out my Amazon store and Spreadshop links in the video description for everything I use in my garden and awesome custom apparel and gear.
Growing common cucurbits like cucumbers and squashes can be a real challenge because they are susceptible to insect pests, diseases, and they can really struggle with pollination. Most cucurbits are monoecious. That means that each individual plant is self-fertile, but they produce separate male and female flowers. The male flower will be a standalone flower that contains the pollen, and the female flower will have a little baby fruit attached. So the only way that you will get pollination and a ripe fruit is if pollen is moved from the male flower into the female flower. Typically that is done with pollinators, but you can also do it with hand pollination methods. Most of us elect not to hand pollinate our cucurbits. We want nature to do it for us. So the bees are going to have to visit our plants and manually transfer the pollen. The problem is not all of us have bees buzzing all over the place, and even if we do, the chances of them completely pollinating your cucurbits are low. So if you've ever had an issue where you see a little baby squash or zucchini or cucumber start to turn yellow and shrivel up and drop off your plants, that is due to a lack of pollination. Nothing pollinated that little baby fruit, so it dropped off. Leaving our plants exposed so pollinators can come in and do the pollination work for us creates a problem. Pollinators are not the only thing that will visit our cucurbit plants. We'll be visited by things like cucumber beetles, the vine borer, squash bugs. These things can quickly decimate a harvest, so it is very important to note that if we choose to leave our plants exposed out in the open for pollination, well, it may come with other bad bugs attached. This problem has largely been fixed when it comes to growing cucumbers. That's because there is a litany of different Parthenocarpic varieties of cucumbers that you can grow. Parthenocarpic means that a fruit will maintain until maturity without pollination. This is different from self-fertile. Self-fertile means that you still require pollination, but the plant is able to pollinate itself. Parthenocarpic means that you don't need pollination at all. That fruit will persist to maturity and will be harvestable whether it's pollinated or not. These Parthenocarpic varieties of cucumbers are game changers because they allow you to grow the plants in a greenhouse or under insect netting completely blocked off so no insects can access them. So that means while you will be keeping the pollinators out, you'll also be keeping out all of the bad bugs. So you can basically grow them without any cucumber beetles or vine borers or any other pests coming in and attacking your plants. And as an added bonus, you won't have to go around and hand pollinate any of them. So there's no extra work on your part. You can grow all of these varieties of cucumbers completely under protection, and they will produce incredible amounts of cucumbers for you in total absence of pollinators. I have had incredible success growing Parthenocarpic varieties of cucumbers over the past few years. Some of the most successful varieties that I've grown have been Party Time, which is a small English cucumber, and Diamant, which is a small pickling cucumber. But the best cucumber I have ever grown to date has been this variety called Merlin. This is a Parthenocarpic medium-sized English-style cucumber, and it is absolutely delicious, and it sets incredible amounts of fruit without pollination. And if you're interested where to get any of these seeds for your convenience, I will place links to them down in the video description. But growing zucchini hasn't been nearly as easy. I haven't been able to find a solution like this for my zucchini plants. And to make things worse, my zucchini plants here where I live have far more problems than my cucumber plants. We have just so many vine borers and squash bugs, and we have such problems with powdery mildew due to our humidity that growing zucchini has been almost impossible for me past late June. So I've been looking for a solution. That's why I was so excited when I came across this variety called Sure Thing. It says that it can set fruit in cool, cloudy conditions in the absence of male pollen, even in greenhouses. So that means to me that this is at least a partially parthenocarpic variety of zucchini. If this actually works, maybe I can finally grow zucchini like I grow cucumbers. I can grow them under insect netting, completely protected from the outside world. And that means I can grow zucchini with no pressure from vine borers or squash bugs or any other insects at all. The promise of being able to say goodbye to squash bugs and squash vine borers forever is the dream of many gardeners. So I had to put this to the test, and I special ordered some seeds. I started them in transplant trays. I transplanted them out into my garden over a month ago, and they have reached full mature size. Now they've been growing underneath this 40% shade cloth overhead to give them some cover from our brutal sun. So here is the first planting in one raised bed. They have been underneath this insect netting the entire time with bricks and wood held down so nothing can get inside. And the second planting of zucchini is underneath this raised bed that I have a little hoop house built on top of it. Again, all of this zucchini has been under full protection the entire time. There are a bunch of plants back there, so I can't wait to pull all of this off and see what we're looking at. We just got a ton of rain from a thunderstorm, so the plants are soaked, but it's going to be just fine. It's not going to impact this video at all. And what I'm seeing, unfortunately, is not too promising. While the plants themselves are very healthy and they are loaded with flowers, all of the flowers that you see here are male flowers. There isn't a single female flower on this plant. There isn't a single female flower on this plant, despite being loaded again with flowers. Same thing here. This one's only barely starting to flower. At first glance, they look a little bit underwhelming. They almost look a little bit stunted. I'm not sure if maybe that's because these are too deep in my garden and the shade cloth is giving them a little bit too much protection from the sun with the insect netting down on top of it as well. Maybe it's reflecting too much of the sunshine and that's impacting these plants negatively. But I have to say I doubt that theory because the variety says it was specifically bred for cloudy locations that don't get a lot of strong sun and in indoor conditions. I also interplanted a couple of cucumber vines with the zucchini as well, and look what I see right here. I see some nice, beautiful cucumbers that are forming and growing pretty happily inside this bed without any pollination and the same amount of sun. So the cucumber vines are producing in the same conditions, even though the zucchini hasn't produced anything. Now in this bed right here, we have a very different situation. While we have cucumbers and zucchini interplanted just like in my other raised bed, because my garden ends right here, the shade cloth stops overhead, and that is where the sun rises. So this gets full morning sun the entire day until the sun moves into the south-southwest, and then the shade cloth gives it afternoon shade. So these conditions here are much sunnier because the shade cloth only impacts them for about half the day, maybe less. And again, folks, I am seeing the exact same conditions here. I am seeing nothing but male flowers. All of those flowers, not a single female. So that means no fruit at all. Same thing with this plant. It has been flowering profusely, but they are all male. And then we have our third plant over here. Again, lots of flowers, but all males. Not a single female fruit on the plant. And just like the hoop house example, I have some pickling cucumbers that were growing in the exact same conditions, and what do you see? I see a cucumber. I see another cucumber. And then over here, look, we have more cucumbers. So the cucumbers are doing exactly what they are supposed to do, and they are fruiting in the absence of pollination under insect netting, but the zucchini is just not doing anything. And look how effective the insect netting has been. Look, there's a squash bug right there. That has been trying to get to my zucchini this entire time, but it can't. So the insect netting is doing its job. Just for whatever reason, this Sure Thing zucchini has not been a sure thing at all. In fact, it hasn't given me one single zucchini, despite the fact I have at least 6 plants growing. So, unfortunately for me, Sure Thing has been anything but. In fact, the only thing I surely am is disappointed. I mean, the cucumbers produced. Look at all the cucumbers I have. What's your problem, zucchini? Well, in all fairness, it could be that maybe Sure Thing is just not a variety that is well adapted to the southeast. It says it's adapted to grow in cloudy environments and greenhouse environments, so maybe it is more geared to higher latitudes. So if you live in the Pacific Northwest or the Great Lakes, or you're actually growing indoors in a real greenhouse where you don't get strong sun and persistent hot, humid temperatures, maybe it would be more appropriate. Maybe the reason why it is only producing male flowers is it is so hot and so humid and so wet here that the variety just isn't adapted to it, and it's just failing because of the stress. I mean, my cucumbers, which come out absolutely beautifully in the spring, they're all kind of funny and deformed looking as well. So that tells me that the conditions in my garden, because it's been so outrageously hot and wet, I mean, it was 97 degrees all week. We just got 17 inches of rain from a tropical storm. Maybe the varieties just can't handle that. So the experiment was a flop, a bust. What's next? Well, the experiment may have been a bust, but it wasn't a failure. I can infer some data from the results, and I'm thinking that maybe I just picked the wrong variety that isn't well adapted for my climate. So I'm going to do more research. There are other varieties of zucchini that claim to be partially parthenocarpic, and I will see if I can find a more heat-tolerant variety and try to grow that completely undercover. Unfortunately, it looks like we're kind of running out of growing season for the year, so I may have to wait until next year to run a new experiment with a more heat-tolerant variety. But I may try to grow one of these Sure Things out in my sunroom over the winter. Maybe it'll do better in the sunroom over the winter, and it'll handle the cooler temperatures better than most zucchini varieties. So we will press on. We'll try the Sure Thing again in the winter. We will get a more heat-adapted variety for the summer, and we will start that next spring, and we'll keep progressing with the experiment, making changes. So back in the spring, when I released a video praising all these different parthenocarpic varieties of cucumbers that I was so successful with, many of you asked me to do the same thing with zucchini. So I'm happy to oblige. I gave it a shot. I'm sorry to say things did not go the way I wanted them to, but at least I ran the experiment. I learned some new things, and while maybe the variety's not at fault and my climate is, I can at least warn all of you down in the deep south and the southeast and other places that has really, really hot summers, maybe don't waste your time on that variety. Try something else. Maybe if you live at a much higher latitude and you have cooler summers, maybe give this variety a shot. It may be worth it to you. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and please ring that notification bell so you're notified when I release more videos like these. Like I said, I will place links down in the video description to these seeds that I featured in this video. If you want to give any of the varieties a try, I highly recommend the cucumbers at the very least. For everything I use in real life in my garden, please check my Amazon storefront link in the video description. Expand the video description, click on the Amazon link. You'll see everything I use in my garden in real life. And while you're down there, please check out my spread shop for custom merch if you want to support the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see all of you again on the next video.
Dale, you got your package. Go ahead, buddy. Open it up. That's for you. Oh, Daddy didn't take the plastic off. He's terrible. Yeah, Dale. Get it, buddy. Get it. Yeah, he knows that's for him. Oh, wow, Dale. You're a beast. It's like Christmas morning. Let's try to flip it over, bud. Come on, let me help you. Let me help you. Oh, whoa! It's gonna take my arm off. What do we have in there, buddy? What kind of treats do we have in there for Dale? Oh, he got a new toy! Well, what is it, Dale? Are you gonna let us see what it is? Oh, it's a school bus toy. Oh, let's take this tag off. You think it has a squeaker in there? Think it has a squeaker? Oh, it has a squeaker. Oh, Dale's gonna have fun with his new toy.